أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. In the name of Allah, the most compassionate, the most merciful. Verily, our praise is due to Allah. We praise Him, we seek His aid, and we ask for His forgiveness. We seek refuge in Allah from the evils of our own selves and from the evils of our own actions. And whomsoever Allah guides, none can misguide. And whomsoever Allah leaves astray, none can guide back to the correct path. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluhu sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We testify there is no deity worthy of our worship except for Allah, who is alone in a partnership and never has and never will be another. And we bear witness that Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, is the last and the final prophet of Allah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Brothers and sisters, friends and family, everybody tuning in to the live stream, may Allah reward you of all that is good and beneficial. Today's Friday reminder on the 19th of Dhul Hijjah, 1444 AH after the Hijrah, or July the 7th, 2023 of the Common Era. Welcome. My name is Brother Daniel from the Northeast chapter of Embrace. So today's Friday reminder, I wanted to focus on this season of summer that we have ahead of us. Now, summer, of course, had begun here in the Northern Hemisphere on June the 21st. So many of us, depending on where we are, me on the East Coast, but especially those in Texas, California, or wherever you may possibly be, are definitely enjoying the hot and the humid weather and the long days and the shorter nights. And while some of us enjoy the outdoors, the beautiful weathers for homebodies like myself, I look forward to being nice and cozy inside the indoors. We hope that everyone has good, sufficient air conditioning, or at least to be able to be comfortable in this sort of weather. But this is the usual time for travel. And the Quran encourages travel for the human being as a means of learning and reflection for oneself. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions in Surah 22, ayat 46, do they then not travel through the earth so that their minds gain wisdom and their ears thus learn to hear? Nonetheless, we can reflect on the beautiful happenings in the world around us and be thankful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for all of that which He has given us, as mentioned in Surah 16, ayat 65. And Allah has sent down rain from the sky and given life thereby to the earth after its lifelessness. Indeed, in that is a sign for people who listen. But the central reflection that I wanted to have for today is about us remembering to enjoy while inside of those festivities and in the enjoyment of the weather, the season, and such, in a halal, a permissible, a good, or an Islamically inclined sort of way. And this, my brothers and sisters, should be our number one priority. And what I mean by that is that we should not rule out opportunity and play while sacrificing one's deen. So while we are going out to family gatherings, to cookouts, to picnics, water parks or amusement areas, festivals, as we plan out our Eids, our vacations, going to camp or different sorts of lodgings or hotels, partaking in long sorts of trips, what we should always establish first for ourselves is to establish the prayer. Are we finding places or planning out for places for us to make prayer stops if we are making a long sorts of travel? Are we preparing to make sure that we're going to be able to have sufficient water for ourselves? So if we need to make wudu, for an example, are we protecting our modesty? Are we wearing the proper sorts of clothing so that we're going to be protected not only from the elements, but also protecting for the men and for women the areas in which we're supposed to be covering? Are we eating what is permissible? Are we only going to halal food shops, or are we packing food for ourselves so that we're able to provide for ourselves and our children while we make these sorts of a trip? And all the while, are we making this sort of dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala before, during, and after our trip for the trip that we have made, and for the protection of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala while we make that sort of trip? Whereas if we wind up getting hurt, incapacitated, or whatever the case may be, that we fall on the line of those who are protected or those who are forgiven for the dua that we make. And in this sort of way, too, just because of us starting or being prepared for it does not also mean that we as Muslims are supposed to be thankful gracious, and generous as people, and in the way how we interact with our deeds and our actions tell us a lot about ourselves, but also there is a sort of custom, a sort of character that we're supposed to uphold within ourselves in every way that we're supposed to act. So we should make these sorts of proper decision making regardless of where we decide to travel to. And in the same case too, are we enjoining, are we forsaking the sense of enjoining community with our fellow Muslims and our family before we decide to go somewhere new or foreign for the sense of adventure or for the sense of doing something that is different? In the same case, are we strictly prohibiting ourselves from going to places that we should not find ourselves in, or that we would not hope not dare to see another Muslim in, for example, or nightclubs or bars or hangout areas or otherwise that put men and women through a sense of fitna, whether it be through their eyes, through their ears, through their tongues, or through their tongue, or through their heart, and fooling ourselves or otherwise. We should protect ourselves from that as well. Let's not fool our minds and think that, oh, this is for the sense of vacation, let's enjoy it now, it's, Allah will forgive us. That sort of mentality is the way to a possible demise, and we don't want to fall into that sort of spiral or that deceit by shaitan from the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And I do want to mention that many of us, for a lot of the Muslim reverts who may listen to us for these reminders here, when it comes to Islam, many of us accepted that or came to Islam because of that sense of personal responsibility to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala or to oneself, or the value of this sense of modesty, of family, a sort of amount of a character that we're supposed to uphold within ourselves, while others have also been saved by the perplexing way of hedonism, for the drinking, the drugs, the relationships with the opposite sex, or self-indulgence for a pursuit that eventually drains our spiritual life or our soul, or provides no true or real comfort or reason for life or purpose. And Islam came to change, to save, and to uplift those souls who were looking for that sort of direction. And in this sort of way, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reminds us that all these things, even though amongst the beautiful weather, the time, the place, the opportunity, that all of this is a temporary thing, but we should not trade this life for the hereafter. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions in Surah 57, ayat 20, know that the life of this world is but amusement and diversion and adornment and boasting to one another, and competition and increase of wealth and children, like the example of a rain whose resulting plant growth pleases the tillers, then it dries up and you see it turned yellow, then it becomes scattered debris, and in the hereafter is severe punishment and forgiveness from Allah and approval. And what is the worldly life except the enjoyment of delusion? So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us from not falling astray, even for one moment or one step through this summer, let alone at all inside of our deen. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala increase us in our deen and to uplift us and continue to uplift us. So let us focus on our spiritual needs while we are traveling physically this summer. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless all of you for tuning in. Allahumma subhanaka wa bihamdi ashhadu an la ilaha illa ant astaghfiruka wa atubu ilaik. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.